So I do got to ask you, 1995 season, front and center, Bob Price or 71. Did you decide to go tit for tat with Don Butchie over at Mooney? Because I know he was a Mooney kid the year before because we played against him. You just trying to beat the old
The
ball
kid,
coach at his own game?
no. The kid came to me and he said, he wanted to play for us. And I
Is
said,
this in the off season or summer or what?
this is right prior to the season. I mean, we were like getting ready to go into doubles.
Okay, because he's in the picture.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and that was always the first day of doubles.
And he came to me and said, he wanted to play for Chaney. And I said, hey, we were obviously, we got to turn in eligibility and whatnot. And, it's got to go through administration. And, I kept them abreast to what was going on. I said, hey, make yourself legal and whatever way you got to do it, legally. And, we'll welcome you. We'll welcome you on. And so he was talking about moving in with somebody and custody, and there was all kind of finagling. And like I said, we had to go through the paperwork, and we did. And then, like a thief in the night, he was gone.
He just disappeared.
He was back at Mooney. It was like, where's Price? And they said, oh, I think he went back to Mooney. Sure enough, he lined up for him.
Yeah. What did he? And I know the rules have changed. Did he ever get to scrimmage with you guys? Like, how far in did he?
I want to say no. No. I never saw him play. We were excited. I mean, big, strong.
I'm sure you were excited. I'm sure.
We thought that he could really help us, and
did he say why he wanted to come play for you? Because he was a starter. It was things just weren't. What he passed along to us was, things weren't working out for him there. Okay, so never going through all this process and looking into all this. I mean, it was a pretty big distraction because, I mean, you're getting ready to start your season, and you're thinking maybe this is going to be a great shot in the arm for you, but you don't know for sure, and then it's gone. It's gone, and did was he? I don't even know where he's from. I remember playing against him. He was he a Southside kid or was he a Boardman kid? Do you know?
I don't know. I know there was an issue with residency, and we were working with downtown, and they were saying, listen, if he's in an apartment with a legal guardian, custodial parent, whatever,
then he's eligible.
Then he would be eligible.
He ends up. I think he ends up being an all SVC lineman. So that year he would. I mean, he would have helped you.
He looked the part. So I mean, we didn't play Mooney, so I can't speak to how good or bad he ended up being. But
well, he was pretty good at the G block.
Yeah.
Blocking down. What? Yeah, I mean, you never heard from him after that. Just disappeared.
No, never. Thanks for trying to help. Nothing like I said, like a thief in the night. Just didn't show up. Now,
did Butchie ever call you and say, "Hey,
no.
I heard you got my guy"? Or
nope, never heard a word from Don. And I certainly wasn't calling Don to say, hey, I got one of your guys that wants to come over here. And
he must have got that tuition paid or something.
Bill must have got taken care of.
I'm thinking. There was actually a kid. You'll cut all this out, right?
Maybe.
In '97, the heck was his name? There's a '97 picture. He would have been a junior then. He was a lineman. It was a similar incident.
For Mooney?
No. He actually ended up going. He played for us in '97.
Oh, would it be the kid from Struthers?
Struthers,
The
yeah.
tight end.
Yes.
Darnell.
Emmanuel, exactly. Good kid. Great, good, very good player. But and I remember him. I don't know if we met there or if we bumped into each other, but this was after the '97 season, like in the spring, telling me he was going to go back to Struthers his senior year.
Yeah.
And and it was like nothing against you guys. He says it was a great experience, but
So he ended up because they cut football that year.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Okay.
They cut football.
But then they brought it back.
Then they brought it back, and there were a bunch of kids that went to Poland, like Morrell, who ends up being a quarterback at Poland, being really well. He was a Struthers kid.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of kids that just didn't come back. I forget what year it was. 97, 96?
Oh, this is 98.
Did you guys play him that following year?
Struthers?
Yeah.
In 98? I don't see his picture here.
Yeah, I think you did, and I think you lost. Because I ended up doing a film exchange at Canfield. I was coaching freshmen, and I met you at...
Struthers shuts down Chaney 21-3 win. Yeah. But Brad came to me on the sideline. He said, my finger. And I said, well, what do you want to do? Remember the conversation. This is where you're going to decide. Am I going to be a man about this, or am I going to just? He said, I'm good. And he went back in, and but I was trying. I was running toss to Anthony and sprinting out with him.
We were talking about, like, we talked with Fernando, and you were talking about how you felt like he was the best 3 technique. What makes you say that? So as a guy who watched him coaching, what makes you say like he was the best 3 technique in the 40 read that you felt we had? Probably
Talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
As position coach, discussing as we watch film and see him, and you probably uttered those words a number of times and stuck with me, and I concur. I agree. And not being initially a 40 guy, but evolving into a 40 guy, and comparing him to other guys that we had in that position. I like I said, I definitely agree with you that he was.
How would you, just kind of thinking about this, I was thinking about this the other day, how would you prepare for somebody like that? Because when you see I know there were a couple guys we played against at Beaver Local where there's some standout guys on the D line, or because he's not on the edge. How would you prepare for a guy like that going into a game, knowing you're trying to run off tackle and you got this 3 technique that it's going to be a long day for your guys?
Well, you can change scheme. You could change scheme if you have a lot of confidence in your tight end. You can do some things as far as doubling.
Mm-hmm.
if you felt confident enough in your tight end, who would have been our tight end at the time?
Keelan. Yeah, I mean, you get the great neutralizer of anybody.
Yeah. So singling down on or whamming down and using your tackle and your guard to double the three. We're comboing anyway.
Right.
So like I said, you wham down with your tight end, taking the backer, and your part of your blocking adjustment on the week is, we're not comboing even the backside on this. We'll have center straight block back to guard turn back on the tackle, center block back on the backside inside, and wham down on the backer and double the three.
Mm-hmm.
That would, I guess that would be the most practical thing to do. I mean,
and this is, but basically, when you basically say I'm gonna double a guy, you're then putting your running back in a situation like, hey, you got to beat one, whether it's an inside backer, whether it's an outside backer, because you're gonna block down, kick out. If it's a 40, you got an outside backer there, depending on your formation, or you got a safety. You got to count for one. Usually, we can account for everybody, but you got to count for one now.
Yeah, well, you can do some things with motion too.
Sure. Depending on your formation and game plan.
Right. I mean, that's all part of the coordination of the offense. Mm-hmm. And God knows that we did, a lot of formation variation and motion. And we were fortunate enough to have some very good tight ends to be able to do things like that, whether it was, the bastard split with the tight end, or putting them in, shifting them and putting them in motion, and or just shifting them, going unbalanced. I mean, there's.
Yeah, so I think I think tight ends. There's been a lot of strong positions over the years. Maybe I shouldn't say, but consistently tight ends, you've lined up really good. That has been a strong position for you throughout the years.
Oh, no question. I mean, that 96. I believe that a good part of our success, is having Bill Ciccarelli and Craig Lynn at, you had bookend tight ends. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you look at your history and you have Terlecki, Chris Frank.
Right.
I mean, guys that, rarely caught a drag or, would occasionally catch an out or a drag or, but in Ciccarelli and Lynn's case, I mean, we sent them on some deep routes actually, but yeah, you're 100% right. We've had great success from Brian Terleski to Keelan Dykes.
Yeah, and I was thinking about Fernando and that group of D linemen that we had during that time. That was a very, very good run of players. The year after, like I was thinking about this as a position coach, I would think that the strongest group of guys, maybe not the singular best one, but the collectively best 3 or 4 guys that we lined up at D tackle was when we had Solly Robinson, Eddie Molina, Tremaine Pixley. And then you had Rosa and Dykes as your 2 ends. And I just remember like those 3 guys every series, each one of them came in. They were just all different styles, but interchangeable.
But you got you. I mean, you have the makings of a fearsome foursome.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's no question.
And then this is the last question, and this is one that I was thinking about through this was, I was thinking about Tremaine Picks, and I was thinking over the years, like, was there one guy or somebody that I missed? Was there some, and not like you did him wrong, but you just missed. Maybe you thought, and I remember thinking over the years, like Picks was probably the one where the way he performed his senior year probably could have had him in the mix a little bit earlier as a junior, because he ended up being a two-way starter for us. Did you ever reflect back and think, man, it was a little too late? There was just never a time where Picks got in and it was like, he's our guy. I always knew it was there. And he was just so slick as a 40 tackle.
Yeah.
And maybe he didn't do it exactly the way you wanted it, but the technique was a little off. Was it maybe my maturity as a coach? Or that's one that I think, like, I would like to go back and look at that with my eyes now and see, did I miss something? Did you ever have any of those instances over the years?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, case in point, the two guys that I talked about today, Robert Bailey and Jimmy Coolers, when you talk about great players that you had over the years, probably the big reason that Jim Coolers and Robert Bailey's name aren't at the tip of my tongue is because of a 5-4 year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then when you start dwelling on what occurred and the type of players that they were, it reminds you that, those were two as good of football players as I coached over the years. So I know exactly what you're saying. And it wasn't like they didn't get their just due. Will either one of them ever be Hall of Fame football players at Chaney? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I mean, if they were nominated, somebody did the paperwork, and I was asked, I'd vote for them.
Yeah.
But I'm prejudiced. But and plus, both of them were in positions where there's not going to be a whole bunch of stats.
Yeah, sure, and that's what I mean. It's like one of those things where just kind of talking to Fernando and thinking back, and I know Picks would always ask, and it was one of those things where I mentioned to Fernando, like, hey, he kind of freelanced. It was one of those things where maybe a guy didn't do it precisely the way you wanted, so you didn't risk putting him in against a Fitch or a Boardman. The stakes would be too high, but or maybe he just wasn't ready. I don't know, but he's one that I think, like, I was always a little unsure just because of size and technique, but then when he got in, boy, he could play.
Yeah, and totally unselfish, and
then when I go coach somewhere else, man, I'll take a team full of those guys.
But I understand what you're saying. It's easy to take a kid like that for granted.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
I think that the rapport that you have with him, that you've developed over the years, he knows.
Those guys, I mean, shoot, it's almost like I wish I had him for another year, because you got those three guys together, even those 5-6 guys together, and you only got 4 spots. It's like, man, there's not enough football to play all of you.
Right.
So
right.